Brendan Martin in the dark, coming at us.
Watch out, Sammy.
It is
Come in here.
Tuesday morning, December 16th, 2025. It's National December 16th day. So look.
What is that? It's National Cat Day.
That's right, National Cat Day. Matt and Cassie, one mouse since May 22nd. Cats are the best rodent-proof you'll ever find in the world. A lot to talk about today. Jordan Davis Hill, 247 Sports, covers Georgia. You can't get any better than this guy. He's so good. Also, Dudley Dawson is going to switch days, going to be on right after him inside Arkansas, half past the hour. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, and Rodney Orr going to come in on his laptop today, ready to get him back. We have missed Rodney. He's been on special assignment in the Himalayas, chartering a new chapter of the Red Elephant Club. So, look, do us a favor. Take a picture. Be cool. Take a picture with your cell phone. We are live, broadcasting, streaming on 8 channels. That is amazing what Brenden does. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We put out great content. We work nonstop, mining stories, getting information, trust but verify, checking with at least 3 sources. We don't traffic in rumors, as Dudley Dawson says, but we have the best lineup and best guests and the best viewers, and thank you so much. Let's get started. Jordan Davis Hill, Dogs sitting out this time on a bye. And Jordan, last year, all 4 teams that had a bye in the first round, they lost. So this year, as smart a coach as Kirby is, I think he's the best coach in college football. What are you hearing they're trying to do differently to avoid what happened last year? Because I think right now, Georgia's playing the best football of any team in America.
I think the biggest thing is not course correcting just because you lost that game. Kirby was asked about it the Sunday that the playoff was announced, the 12-team playoff field was announced, and he said, look, the break is not why we lost that game. We had a fumble right before halftime. They turned into 7 points. We gave up a kick return, and that was basically the game. So I think Kirby's been at this long enough to understand, there are things they can tweak. I think they want to be very smart about really walking a fine line between, all right, let's give these guys a break. They've been playing a really hard schedule throughout the year, but also we got to keep these guys ready to go. So I'm sure there's been some tweaks he's made. He's talked about, he's texted with some of the other first-round coaches from last year. As my coworker Kip Adams astutely pointed out, probably more texts with one of those guys, that being Dan Lanning, than some of the other guys. But no, I think that there will be things that he's changed and how they prepared, while also understanding how they handled the lead up to the Sugar Bowl last year is not why they lost that game.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I want to ask you about Gunnar Stockton, all-time leading touchdown passer in Georgia high school history. That's a big deal because that is a great number 4 in the country in terms of producing Division I talent. He just doesn't seem to get the recognition, I think, that he deserves because he was overshadowed. I mean, obviously, Diego Pavia's story is pretty cool, but all Gunnar does, and who wouldn't want a quarterback named Gunnar? He wins. Talk about your conversation you had with him most recently. What's it like?
I mean, the biggest thing when you talk about why he doesn't get the national recognition, just in personality, if you made like a spectrum, Diego Pavia would be on one end, and I think Gunnar Stockton would be on the complete opposite end. We have fun talking about – he's just not a guy that's going to have a lot to say when he talks to the media. He's just – he's like, hey, made this play. You ask him to replay, like, hey, what'd you see on this touchdown throw? Yeah. Receiver ran a great route, threw the ball, made a great play. Like that's the summation of most answers with Gunnar Stockton, which is totally fine with me. It makes for easy transcriptions after games, but the dude's just a gamer, and you get that sense from his teammates that when he walks out on that field, there's just a switch that, like he just flips the switch, and it's not even like the same guy. Like he's just a very competitive guy, and I think that you see that in everything he does. I think it was the Charlotte game. Again, they're playing Charlotte, a very bad AAC team, and he's like diving for first downs and stuff. I'm sure the coaching staff was like, get down. Like, there's no need to risk it, but it's just the way he plays, man. He's going to lay it all out on the field, and his teammates love him for it. I think it's a big reason why, especially with the offense, I mean, that they've had the kind of success they've had this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the 12-1 Georgia team. What is it about either Tulane or Ole Miss you're most concerned about? You've played Ole Miss already and won in a shootout between the hedges.
I think the biggest thing, and just being realistic, like it's more than likely going to be Ole Miss. And the thing that I look at is not specifically like, their passing game is obviously very good. They had a lot of success against Georgia, but just that if it's Ole Miss, that is a very motivated team. I think that this is an Ole Miss team that is looking around and saying, look, yeah, Lane Kiffin was huge for us, but Lane Kiffin wasn't the one throwing those touchdown passes. Lane Kiffin wasn't the guy sacking the quarterback. We still have all our players. We still have the guys that got us to this point. And I think there's a chance that this looks like, I think about when West Virginia, when Rich Rod left and Bill Stewart takes over, I think that might have been the Fiesta Bowl. And that team rallied around the interim coach. That's kind of, for me, if you're looking at it, the Georgia perspective, what should they be worried about? Yeah, defense has to play better. That game against Ole Miss back in October, first 5 drives for Ole Miss, 5 touchdowns. And we're all kind of sitting there going, Georgia is not going to win this game. They can't get a stop. And they got them late and found a way to win. But no, I think you just look at it from the perspective of, yeah, this Ole Miss team is in the playoff like everybody else, but I think there's a sense of having nothing to lose and probably more importantly, something to prove. Lane was huge for this team, but look, all our players are still here, and we want to show that we are a championship caliber team with or without him.
Yeah. So the obvious comparisons to the previous 5 years, Georgia 21-22 national champs, 23, you're undefeated, lose the SEC championship, you're bounced out. That, to me, was the defining moment, sort of the line of demarcation. No more of that. We're not going to be like Florida State. We're not be like Notre Dame this year, have a pout face. Georgia's culture, talk about it. You're there every day. You live in the classic city in Clark County. It seems to me like Kirby knows every player. Do you remember a couple of years ago at Media Days in Dallas, July of 24? He went to a conference. Was it IBM or some big deal where you had to learn everything about everyone that you work with, hometown, name, spouse's name, kids' names, dogs' name, anything. He said, because that stuff matters in the fourth quarter when you're on the road in college football. You got to trust that guy to your left or your right. And it's really resonated with me ever since he said that, because it's called a visitation. We had to do it in college. We had to know everybody in the fraternity. I can still remember that stuff's etched in my brain, and I think it matters.
100%. And I think that one of the turning points for this program was after the 2020 season when they beat Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. And Kirby's talked about this. Drew Branden is a sports psychologist that does a lot of work with UGA, and he was on Drew's podcast at one point. And he said, after that Peach Bowl, we won the game, and we're going into the offseason. And he said, I'm looking around and nobody's happy. And like nobody's pumped up because of how we ended the season. And one of the big things they really worked into the program and really began to incorporate, and what's been part of the program ever since, is what they call skull sessions. And it's what you were just outlining, Rob, where they bring the players in and they talk about their why. They talk about what motivates them. They talk about why they want to be a football player in the first place. That could just be, hey, ever since I was 4 years old, I love the game, and this is what I've always wanted to do. It could be, look, I want to provide for my family. I want to have this opportunity, and I want to go to the NFL and make sure that my family is taken care of. And I think that buy-in is real, to the point you were just making, that, in the fourth quarter, if you're one of those offensive linemen, you got a guy to your left and a guy to your right, you understand what they're out there playing for and what they are showing up for and what drives them. And you hope that will help you get that extra that can be the difference in winning and losing a game. I mean, Kirby, just the little things like that. I mean, that's why Georgia's been so successful. And I thought that the Orange Bowl that you mentioned, I mean, just look at both of the programs in that game, Georgia and Florida State, just where they've gone since then. And I always think about after Georgia won that game, total blowout, I think it was 63-3.
Yeah.
Kirby talked about Kamari Lassiter who, he told him during the week, like, man, you don't got to go out there and play. Like, you're getting ready. He winds up being a second-round pick to the Texans. He's like, look, basically nobody's going to look down on you if you don't play. And he's like, I got to. You know what I mean? Like, this is my team, and this is what I'm supposed to do. I wouldn't feel right not playing. And that's just the culture at Georgia, that those guys want to go out there and dominate. And they did in that Orange Bowl, and Florida State's never been the same since.
No, and
it seems to be a philosophy I think that coaches are following in a sense. Like maybe it's the Kirby philosophy. There's speculation now, with Lagway in the portal, that there, was based off a meeting that they had with coaches, and they said, what kind of player do you want to be?
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Yeah.
And I think that matters for a lot of these coaches that are gut checking, a la old school Urban Meyer, tarmac meeting, that kind of thing. I think we're seeing a little of that drift back in, and like a whole lot. I don't care if you go to the portal or not.
Yeah,
which is what needs to happen.
Yeah, Jordan, expand on that, because Kirby doesn't lose a lot. He loses, but he doesn't bring a lot in either. He likes to take the guys he brought in from high school.
Yeah, 100%. And it always surprises me. We go into, a portal season. Now it's different because there'll just be the one portal season. But, I'll usually have a list. And this is not given to me. This is not intel. But you can look at a roster and you can say, look, this guy's probably going to enter the portal. Like he's buried in the depth chart, like not really a factor. And 9 times out of 10, or at least in the last few years, the majority of the time, the list that I have, it's like a quarter of the guys who wind up going in, because those guys are balled in. And, I think about some of the guys we talked to in the past, Julio Humphrey, who eventually did transfer, but there was a point that he was going to enter the portal, and then Georgia talked him out of it. And we talked to him the following spring, and he was like, talking to the coaches, they said, look, if you win the job, you're going to play, but even if you're not playing, we're going to get you ready if you want to go play in the NFL.
Yeah.
You will be able to practice. There's nowhere in the country you're going to get the practice reps like you do at Georgia that are going to get you ready. And the example I always bring up is Channing Tindall, who I don't think ever started a game at Georgia at inside linebacker. He still was, I want to say, a 3rd-round pick to Miami. I mean, if you're not able to call yourself a starter, it's not going to ruin your chances of playing in the NFL if you stay at Georgia. Again, I'm the kind of guy, I'm never going to fault a guy for transferring, especially with playing time. Look, if you got the opportunity to go somewhere else, go. And I think that's very similar to the mindset that Kirby and those guys have. But yeah, and to the portal, just their approach, Rob. I mean, because Georgia recruits high schools so well, they can just go into a portal season and say, look, we only need maybe 2 or 3 positions we really want to key in on. And you saw it last year. They signed 2 receivers, Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. They knew receiver was very important. And then defensive back, really safety. They said, all right, we're going to take these 3 guys. And it wound up, none of the 3 wound up really, none of them are starters. Zion Branch has played a decent bit. But with the way they recruit high schools, it allows them to really specialize on a couple positions, say, this is an area we really got to hit in the portal. And I think it's a big part of why they're so successful and don't have to lean on the portal like some other teams do.
Well, we've all stayed in jobs that we should have left a long time ago, but we love the people we worked with. And it's harder to leave people that you care about. And on another level, talking to, like, say, my brother-in-law, you're in the Marines being deployed in combat. He said, yeah, you're fighting for your country. No, you're not fighting for your country. You're fighting for that guy to your left or your right. You're fighting for each other and to get home. That's what you're, and I think Kirby, and I'm going to say this about John Summerall. You watch the culture that he builds at Florida, and Kirby is the guy. He's not even 50. Kirby's not 50.
I love it.
I do too.
It's exactly what it needs to happen. I mean, it's like, finally, it's somebody's got to come in and be the adult.
Yeah. And Jordan, look at these coaches. Kirby set the bar. I'm telling you, when he said that in July of 24, I would love, next time you talk to him, ask him if what they're doing is a follow-up to that, because his kids seem like they absolutely love him and they play a full 60. I mean, that'd be a great podcast for you. Junkyard Dogs full 60, because it's fun to watch them play. I don't care if you're a Georgia fan or not. Kids, I just think kids that love to play for you, they're fun to watch.
No, and I think it even shows up. It's fascinating, and we'll see it once we get through the draft process this year. In a world of NIL, sometimes you're able to keep a guy that might want to go pro otherwise, because, hey, we love playing here. We've heard of some of the guys who are going to have draft decisions this year that, they are not in a hurry to leave Georgia. They're bought in. They want to show up and play for their team. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it resonates throughout the program. And that's why Georgia is where it is. I mean, like you said, Kirby's 49. He's turning 50, I think, December 23rd. So that's coming up. But he can go as long as he wants. Now, how long he wants to go, I don't know. But, I mean, the guy is just as driven today as when he was introduced as the head coach back on December 7th, 2015. And he's not slowing down as far as I can tell.
No, he's not. Look, before we let you go, tell people about your great podcast that you do. I love Jeff Boone and Tom and Zach Hartman. Got 3 dogs in my hunting club. And my God, every morning before we even go out, the sun's up. It's great to be a Georgia Bulldog. How do they follow your podcast and all your great stuff on social media? And as always, thanks more than you know for sharing your time with us.
Absolutely. Dogs247.com on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at Dogs247. The Junkyard Dogcast that Rob mentioned. We're going to have a live episode 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Central Time today. And we're talking basketball. We're going to have Isaac Trotter from 24/7 Sports Zone. Georgia 9-1, and they are ranked for only the second time since January 2011. So we're going to talk about Georgia with Isaac, and we're also going to talk about the state of the SEC with a couple of weeks to go until SEC play starts. So still busy with no football. We got basketball going on. The lead up to the Sugar Bowl still going on. Be excited to watch Tulane Ole Miss on Saturday afternoon, and then before long, we'll have Christmas. We'll enjoy that, and then we'll be full bore down to New Orleans, get ready for another big Sugar Bowl.
It'll be awesome, man. Yeah, Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Love it. Dudley Dawson should be here momentarily with us, and here he is inside Arkansas. And before we go to Dudley, I want to say something. I think these 3 coaches, Golish at Auburn, Silverfield at Arkansas, and Summerall at Florida, all 3 of them are the kind of coaches you got to have to win in today's world. They're corporate kind of guys who could go in the corporate world, be very successful. They're very smart people, and no one's going to outwork them. It's kind of like The Breakfast Club, the movie in the 80s that we remember. Brenden was too young for that. But Dudley and I remember.
Dude, that was right in my wheelhouse.
Okay. Okay.
You want to talk about The Breakfast Club, bro?
But I'm saying these guys,
Molly Ringwald.
But these guys are all in the office about 4 a.m. And that's the kind of the SEC took a seismic change in these coaches. Dudley, first off, absolutely love the sweatshirt. You get an A+. Mrs. Landers and Mrs. Canfield both give you an A+ from the Beaver. But let's talk about Ryan Silverfield, what he's doing. It looks like he's really got he got a roadmap of the state of Arkansas, and he's really getting after it. And take it from there, as always. And Merry Christmas. Love the tree.
Well, I'm sure he's going to do something wrong, sooner or later, but hasn't yet. He said all the right notes from the day one when he flipped the 4 guys that were so good here in the state of Arkansas. As I, beat that drum, and the old staff really didn't put as much. Or let's just say they didn't have as much success. How's that?
Yeah.
Whether it was a lack of effort, or lack of winning, or whatever. But and he's gone out. He's met the fans. He's done a ton of interviews. He continues to add to the staff and what's looking like a really good staff. And I think a lot of people need to focus also on not only what he's the guys who you will see standing by him on the field and in the press box, but what's going on behind the scenes, because the analysts and guys that support staff, it's bigger. They only had 5 of those guys here the past few years. And I guess Alabama and Auburn people have like 30, in different situations. So, they're finally, it appears, putting some money into the, what's that work? There's a word that
NIL Collective, the Razor's Edge.
No, the support staff, the network inside of the business. So I think that's that's something that hadn't been done enough. Infrastructure, that's the word.
Yes. Infrastructure. Well, You know, we all know there's some big money up in the Northwest corner. We also know about Stevens and Little Rock. We know there's money, but those people aren't going to do it themselves. You know those boosters. You talk to them. Who is the point man now for the Razor's Edge Collective, or who's really? Because I can tell you one thing about Silverfield: the guy knows how to raise money. He's an analytical guy. He's been coaching since he was 18. 8 years in the NFL. He's got a hell of a resume.
Yeah, as far as the Razorback Collective now, I think there's a lot of things still going in. That the point guy right now is Ryan Silverfield. As you mentioned, even before he was hired up here, he's got a real good head for the business of college football.
Oh yeah,
and the dealing with FedEx and others over there had certainly allowed him to understand how you have to meet and greet people richer than us.
Yes.
And, get them to invest. And it appears, there's a lot of excitement in the business community. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be disingenuous and say, they said everybody was going around and said, we got to have that guy. I'm going to give so much money to that guy. That's not the case. It's him getting here again, that first day of his, and being able to go out and greet fans, greet the business people. They don't care what you look like. They don't care about where you came from. They care about whether can you win and can you make them excited about football. And let's just be honest, there's been some nice moments during the past decade or so, but not enough.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about him, he's an offensive line coach, but he understands the whole game, and he's been part of a really strong coaching tree. What for Arkansas right now, the top 33 players in the state, you at Inside Arkansas, and folks, follow John Neighbors, Dudley Dawson. I know it's a Tuesday. It feels like a Wednesday, but how do people follow you and keep up with the recruiting? But again, talk about
Friday today.
Those top players in the state. In Missouri, keep out. Isn't there going to be a wall built on the northern edge?
It certainly appears that a guy who's coming from one edge just over a bridge a state is going to do his best to try to block another guy who used to live a few miles down here from me and now has taken he's taken a big time lead over me in the salary department. And he's certainly worth it. He's done a great job up there, and he played his cards right. And when Penn State and others were thinking about at least poaching him or whatever, he turned that into a better contract for himself. And let's be honest, I'll just say that from the time that he first got there till now, their infrastructure has gotten better. The stadium's getting bigger. The money that they have to give recruits has gotten better, and he's needs a lot of credit for that. All that to say, you top 33 players in Arkansas. It used to be you couldn't get to 33 players that were worth playing Division I football, and there's 8 to 10 for sure every year that are worth it. I think in this next go around in the 2027 class, there's still some development going on there, but I think it's going to be in the 20s, and you've got to go out and get as many of them as you can, and not only to make you better, but to keep your other schools around you from getting better. And that's been you look at part of this malaise or part of this depression from Arkansas fans has not only been them not winning enough, but people around them, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma now, all being successful. And you root for your family, but you want to be the best in the family.
Yeah. Well, listen, the one thing that'll kill your program is apathy. The thing that'll help you succeed is passion. The Arkansas fans are madder than hell. They don't like this. And and one thing about Silverfield too, is he will come over to the Delta and hit up some of these farmers. Just like I said, everybody looks at the price of oil, look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, watch the price of a bushel of rice. It's very important. Beans, cotton.
You preach it to the choir. You preach it to the choir.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, cotton down a little bit. But by the way, sad news to report, my friend for 30 years, Chris Aiken, web-footed kennels in Jonesboro, Arkansas, reported to me Blue Jays in Grubbs is closed. I'm shocked. The peanut butter pie with the 3-inch thick meringue on top.
Not just for Christmas?
It's just closed. They closed. I can't believe they had a great gun shop in there too. All right, Dudley, look, when you look at Arkansas, you think about basketball too. Great tradition. John Calipari's up there. They're spending a lot of money on NIL, and he's playing any and everybody that'll play him. What do you look for the Razorbacks once SEC ball cranks up? And just your gut feeling right now, based on what you've seen from the other 15 schools in the league, top to bottom, Florida Gators defending national champion. You think the league's going to be as good or better or not even close to what it was last year? Because I've never seen it as good as it was last year.
14 schools in the NCAA tournament last year.
How are you going to beat that?
It's going to be tough to do. I mean, I guess you could get 16 in there, but it's going to be tough to match that. I do think they're a little down. As some people revel in pointing out, a week ago Saturday, the SEC went 0-8 in games against other Power 4 conferences, and it's not as good as it was, but I still think it's obviously going to be really, really good. And I think Arkansas is one of the legitimate title contenders. They stamped that I think last Saturday in Dallas in when they beat Texas Tech, who's a really good basketball team and really hard nosed. Grant McCasland, who's been in our state and done some things, when he was coaching here. But I think that you've got to give Coach Cal a lot of credit. You've got to give these young freshmen that have come in and given a lot of credit. But the change here, to me, the change gives them the opportunity to go even farther than they did last year. Is Trevon Brazile, who's done a great job in shaking off injuries and shaking off the label of being a potential NBA draft pick, a potential great player. He showed that he stepped it up last Saturday. He has done a lot of that this year. I do think that Arkansas is a legitimate contender to go to the Elite Eight. And the reason I say that is because they're playing all the Elite Eight from last year. All 8 Elite Eight teams are on the schedule. And so, and they're, that's a pretty good indication, you can't say they're ducking the schedule or anything because that's pretty impressive. You're not going to come out of there undefeated, but you're going to come out of there ready to play in January. Yeah,
well, the best coach ever, Bobby Knight, used to do it. I loved watching his teams in Indiana. He's my kind of coach. I love the way he did it. He'd play anybody, the sausage grinder. And, Calipari, incredible recruiter. And, the Bud Walton Arena, 19,000? And they refurbished that thing. That thing is not old and decrepit. It opened in 91 or 92, but they don't need to build a new arena, do they?
Oh, absolutely not. And it's interesting that tonight they're playing Queens College, which, by the way, I would have thought was in New York. It is in North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina. So it's an 8:00 Tuesday night game. I bet the crowd's not as big as it was for Louisville and all that, but they, after this game, I think for the rest of the season, they're going to have crowds that are nearing capacity like they did against Louisville. Basketball hadn't really taken a step back during this whole malaise thing that some of the other programs have here at Arkansas. Eric Musselman did a really good job in bringing the basketball team not only into success on the court, but off the court. And I think that, let's just be honest, there's not too many celebrity coaches anymore in college basketball, but they got one of them up here. And it's Hollywood. The last Saturday, it was just Hollywood down there in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, it's the people that he attracts. I mean, it was like that in Memphis. Calipari.
He played golf with Obama when Obama came up here for to give a speech at Alice Walton's museum and stuff up here. He's a celeb. It's cool.
Oh, he is. And when he lived in Memphis, he lived in Red Acres, gorgeous 100-year-old neighborhood, and he lived next door to the Bishop Stieb of the Catholic Diocese here, and he had a basketball court, in his backyard, a beautiful house, and people were playing there. I mean, when he leaves you hate it, but it's because he's so good. And yeah, he can make some people mad. I don't know if he and John Chaney still are friends or not.
Well, it's the celebrity. One reason I was talking to the celebrity that has allowed him to get kids here at Arkansas that are going to be top 5, top 10 draft picks. That wouldn't have been the case because of the name.
Yeah, it's incredible. By the way, Richard Greenwald, I've known Richard since high school. He's spearheading a documentary called "Courting the Dream," and it's going to be released soon. It's about the Memphis State versus UCLA, that great season, 1973. Bill Walton, 21 of 22. My dad was there. He was in St. Louis. He had courtside seats. He said, that big redhead. And he goes, not King Kong couldn't stop him that night.
9-year-old Dudley was watching that game and loving it. I was a big-time Memphis State fan back then.
We were all watching it. And that watch for that documentary, because I know Brenden is a documentarian. Dudley, I got to tell you something, man. We got Yancy Porter coming up here in a minute from Rebel Yell Hotline, so I won't keep you long, and he and Rodney Orr. But you've had knee replacement, correct?
Yes. Now both knees. One 6 years ago, and it went okay. This one has been super. I don't know if I'm better at these things. Working harder to rehab, but I'm moving around much better than I was, and it's a joy, man. I wake up in pain every day.
Yeah, don't ever tell me sports don't matter, because the lessons that you learned playing over there in Balch and Newport, you carry with you today. That's what I love about it. Tell people how they can follow you and keep up with your great work. And I tell you something I get from so many of my Arkansas friends, and I'm over at the farm right now in Parkin. My son and another one of the guys are out hunting right now. They were breaking ice yesterday. Today's a little bit better. But how can they keep up with you? But that top 33, what are you seeing? Movement in the aisles, Arkansas football recruiting. Kind of circle the wagons back on that. Do you feel like it's going really well? Because I think Silverfield knows how to work the portal like Kiffin does. He's really good at it.
There is a high school coach here in the state of Arkansas, Buck James, who he was great at Browne. He has 7. Him and Tom Brady could hold up their rings together. He has 7 state championship rings.
Yeah.
He's at Conway now. He made a comment to me the other day when I was interviewing for the podcast, and that's one of the places inside Arkansas. I have a recruiting podcast. Obviously, Hogville, I write a bunch of stories on different programs up here, and then Best of Arkansas Sports is something else I do. But Buck James said the other day, and it's a telling statement that Ryan Silverfield has recruited the state of Arkansas better than any coach in the last 5 to 6 years. And that's a positive for one side, a negative for the other. But he's been in so many schools, has paid so much attention. The Quincy Rhodes, defensive end, who's coming back, in part because Ryan Silverfield was the first coach that offered him when he was in high school. And now he's a first round, second round NFL draft pick, and he's coming back to play another year because he thinks he can get better in his system. It's just, I think he's done a really good job at ingratiating himself into a culture that he knew a lot about already. And that's a big deal, that fit thing. We can toss the word fit out and culture, and, you can come up with many different variations of what it is, but the dude gets it. That's all I got. That dude gets it.
Well, Ryan Silverfield will walk in a room full of people, and he will walk up to every person in that room, shake their hand, look them in the eye, and thank them for coming. Even if he knows you, he doesn't take anything for granted. Kind of the only easy day was yesterday. Look. First
basketball game he went to, he got $1 million donation from somebody he'd never met.
I told you, the guy's good. And they hated losing him. I know Dr. Hargrave hated losing him. We're going to try to get his replacement, Charles Huff, on the show soon. But
seems like a good dude.
He does. And I know it's playoff or bust for a lot of people, but Dudley, just watching a program build is so much fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch it. Look,
I'm excited to do it for the 12th time during my career.
And it won't be the last, because we want you to go to your 90s, okay? Tony Barnhart can never retire. You can never retire. You're young anyway, so
no, I'll come find all you guys.
Maybe the word you're looking for is immature, but
no, yeah, right.
I'll just come find you and make you podcast with me when you get old.
And I've been talking to Jim McClellan a lot about Ryan Silverfield and just what everything that I know about him. I
was over by Jim's house before I get out of here. We yesterday laid to rest our colleague Nate Allen, one of the best writers that's ever done it here in the state of Arkansas. He died on December 3rd, but we had a ceremony for him yesterday. Shared a lot of great memories. He was one of my mentors, both in the humor factory and in the writing factory.
Yeah.
What a great guy. I just want to say something before we got out of there about him.
Absolutely. And Dudley, we'll get you back on next week on Wednesday. Good luck tomorrow. Everything go well. You are one of the best. And thanks more.
You know what the doctor's going to tell me to slow down? I can't.
No. And thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us.
Merry
Christmas.
You don't know me. You don't know my knee.
Yeah. It's Lee Majors, baby. Bionic man.
Yeah. Bionic man. All right. Be good. Prayers for Nate Allen, your mentor. And I'm going to tell you right now, we got Yancy Porter on here, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch it Monday nights at 6 p.m. Central and Super Talk, Mississippi. Yancy, now Rodney Orr has told me he's going to come in on his laptop today. So that means we will see Rodney in the flesh. You're the last man standing. What's that Tim Allen movie show? The last man standing. We've got to get you. You're a good-looking guy, man. You look like Lee Majors. We got to get you on the show with the video because it gets us a better grade in the algorithm. But first off, how things going on down there in Lafayette County? I read that article in The Athletic yesterday about Lane Kiffin. You know, you poured your heart out to him. He's gone. Now you got Pete Golding. But some of the coaches are coming back to coach in the playoff game Saturday. First off, how tough is that ticket for Ole Miss Tulane this Saturday, December 20th?
Well, there's been a lot of chatter about that on the message boards. I think the starting price right now is $400 for a ticket to get inside the stadium. But, it's kind of interesting dynamic because you've already played Tulane. It is after the students have left. Let's be honest. Tulane and James Madison are not playoff caliber teams. There's tons of excitement. There will be an overcapacity crowd, but with those dynamics, it kind of tempers it down a little bit. And everybody, Ole Miss, they love the Sugar Bowl, and everybody and their mama's going over there to New Orleans next week for that game. So it's going to be, everybody's very excited for the game, though.
Well, Oxford, if you hadn't ever been there, folks, it's such a cool place. It's not in the Delta because there's too many hills. So technically, Yancy, it's not in the Delta, but it ain't far from the Delta. But man, a celebration. I think it's going to be the biggest sporting event in the history of the state of Mississippi. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I do.
It's a playoff.
It's a playoff. It's going to be fun. There's no question about it.
And so this time you played Tulane earlier in the season, won convincingly. Both teams have gotten better since the last game. What's keeping you up at night, making you say, I'm really worried about this or that?
It's all about Ole Miss, honestly. Okay. That sounds like coach speak, but it really is, right? I mean, it's the curiosity, right? It's Lane's no longer there. What is it going to look like? What are they going to do when it's 4th and 5 for the first time at midfield? How's the offense going to look? Is it going to be crisp? Is it going to still be dynamic? Is it still going to be innovative? There are so many questions that need to be answered Saturday. And I think that's the most important thing. And again, not taking anything away from Tulane. And I know Tulane listeners might be like, boy, I can't wait to get up there Saturday. Ole Miss is overlooking us. But, it's all about Ole Miss Saturday. And they've got to get themselves – they need that confidence, right? They need that shot like, hey, we are still who we've been all season without Lane because, next Saturday you're walking into a buzz against a team that's unquestionably playing the best football in America right now.
Yeah. Pete Golding is the head coach now. I saw something I'd never seen before. You probably have, but I saw it on an interview the other day. Pete Golding without a hat on. I was like, damn, I didn't recognize him. Great recruiter. You name a player on the Ole Miss roster and people will say, that's a Pete Golding recruit. Pete Golding. He seems like you're kind of guy. You don't last 4 years with Nick Saban at Alabama if you don't know what you're doing. He's been an integral part because the fast-paced, up-tempo Ole Miss offense, it's hard to have a shutdown defense. It's impossible. You know that. But they figure out a way to make it work. How do you think he's going to do as a head coach? What's going to be different?
I mean, I think he's going. I really do. I think he's going to be great, but you don't know that until what's that slugging at Ole Miss now? Spot the ball, but literally, you don't know that until the games are played, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know what he can do defensively. He's got 7 years of defensive coordinator experience in the SEC. All 7 years, he's finished in the top 25 in total defense. He's proven himself on that side of the ball. Recruiter, you know what kind of recruiter he is. He's been the most dynamic recruiter at Ole Miss as he's been at Ole Miss. But you know, being the head coach is a total different animal. I love the staff that he's putting together. The Washington, Davian Washington, the wide receiver coach at Kentucky, I thought was a really big get for him. This past 24 hours, I like the way that he's piecing together this staff. He's a player's coach. I think he's going to do really well, but nobody can make any assertions of certainty until the games are played.
You're right. Saw Trey Harris playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Lot of Ole Miss players. Last year you had 8, which is the most in school history. What do you think you're going to have taken off this year's team?
Not many. I think there's only you've got the 2 wide receivers, 2 tackles. You have the tight end and 1 safety. So you've got 7 that are leaving, that graduate, and the rest return. Remember, Ole Miss only returned 2 starters this year out of their 22 starters. So they had the fewest in Power 4 football. It was a total rebuild for this roster this season. So give Lane credit on that, right? But this roster was made for next season. The 2026 was supposed to be, like 2024, where the last dance. It was supposed to be 2026. This roster was made to win a championship. So they're a year early, and that's why there's so much debate about roster retention and who's going to leave, who's going to stay. That's really kind of dominated the message boards, not about the game Saturday or about the chances of winning the national championship. Everything, these Ole Miss fans are all in a frantic about roster retention right now.
Hotels, have you ever noticed you're in the loyalty program, Hilton Honors program, you pick the hotel. If colleges were smart, they would have a loyalty program for guys that stay at their school. You get money put aside in escrow. I think, retention of customers for hotels, it's no different in college. And I think if you, what you need to be telling these kids is don't, alienate the wealthiest people in the state of Mississippi by leaving them after they've paid you and all, because you're set for life with job connections. You know that. So if you ran into Lane Kiffin this evening up at Proud Larry's, you were up there having a road soda and some gumbo or, grits and grillade or whatever, what would you say to him about how he left? And also, what would you say to him to say what you did the last 6 years?
I mean, I would say he did an unbelievable job the last 6 years. The best years since I've been alive. Freeze, certainly had some good years as well. Tuberville as well, but it was a great ride. I would tell him he can't do anything about the past, and so there's no reason to rehash about Ole Miss or Alabama or Oakland or Tennessee or all these places he's left, but just leave with class. That's all. Just there's nothing wrong if you have got an itch, and obviously he does. He's not one. I believe in 18 years of growing up, I've told this story before. He lived in 15 different cities. So, when he was a kid, he knew no different than leaving from town to town. That's all he did his whole life because he was a coach's son. And so I get that, but just leave with dignity, leave with class. All he had to do was say, "Hey, man, these were the best years of my life. Thank you, Ole Miss. I got my I got my personal life together, my professional life together. I just think it's an opportunity I can't pass on. Maybe I'm making a mistake. I love y'all forever. And that's it. And of course, some Ole Miss fans would have been upset, right, that he left. But then after a year, those feelings, just like Tuberville, he's one of the most beloved coaches at Ole Miss in my lifetime. And look, he left and said he wouldn't leave unless it was a pie box. But Ole Miss people love Tuberville to this day. And that's all he had to do instead of trying to burn down the house. Why he tries to, well, I think what happens is that he gets angry that the media starts painting him as a villain for leaving. And then he turns that anger and he says, that school is trying to run my reputation and I'm gonna get them. And that's what kind of happens mentally. He flips it in his mind that the school he's leaving is now the villain because the media starts criticizing him for being the villain. And I think that's what happened here at Ole Miss. And to this day, he will try to be vindictive against Ole Miss to the day he dies. And 10 years from now, still coaching, he'll still, if there's an important player, an important coach, he'll still try to poach them just to get back at Ole Miss because that's the way he is. He's got to let things go and leave with class. And I think he could go down as one of the greatest all-time coaches.
Yeah, he needs to grow up. I remember asking Tommy Tuberville about this because one of my best friends who passed away in 2014 was his attorney. And I said about Ole Miss, and he said, and he even said this publicly too. He said, he back in 2009, the year he was out of coaching before he went out to Texas Tech for 3 years, he said, I hadn't, I was coaching. I couldn't go anywhere. He goes, so I was covering a game for ESPN, and we were driving into Oxford with the police escort for, the TV crew. And he said this. He said, I started choking up and was in tears because I looked at this place, how far they've come and how much I loved it and how much they did for me. And he said, the way I left, there's no good way to leave. He said, but I will always love this place. And he got very emotional talking about that. And he did that publicly. I'm not breaching any confidentiality, but that is the way you handle it. And,
yeah. And Tubbs' case too, Rob, was that him and Chancellor Kayak just simply despised each other. So when you and your boss,
that never works
along the way that they did, it's tough, right? It doesn't matter what job you work for. When you and your boss are at each other every single day, it's a bad work environment. And it wasn't about Ole Miss with Tubb. It was simply the boss. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong and who was right and wrong between that, but I mean, Tubb was out there sweeping the parking lot on TV saying, that the players were practicing in the parking lot because they didn't have an IPF at that time. And the chancellor just got livid about it. But Tubb had reasons too, because the chancellor didn't like Tubb and was trying to squeeze him to irritate him, and they were just at each other's throat. And so it is what it is.
You're right. But look how much better they are for it. And I just think back.
People love Tuberville here. People love Tuberville at Ole Miss. And Lane could have been that way. He could have been the exact same way.
He could have. And I've left jobs. You've left jobs. And I've always maintained friendships with everybody I've ever worked with. And something else too about, you take a look and you pick the school. When you leave, you're always going to be part of their family. I mean, the way Terry Bowden, when he left Auburn, I told him, talking to him this summer, I said, man, I look forward to the day that you and your family and your team are recognized at midfield on the 50-yard line for what happened in '93. Because if Auburn hadn't gone undefeated with Alabama winning a national championship, Auburn could have been swept into the abyss of irrelevancy and disappeared. So all these coaches, no matter what we say about them, they're part of your family. It's like, I've remarried, but my mother and father always loved my first wife. That's the mother of my 3 children, their grandchildren. That's the way you got to handle it. Look, Rodney's trying to get in on the email. I don't know what's going on, but he's trying.
I see some smoke signals on the distance.
Rodney, we love you. We miss you.
You got to use a wool blanket. It's a wool blanket.
we miss you and we love you.
Here we go. Rodney Orr.
Here we go. Rodney Orr, how you doing, man? All right. Okay. Well, anyway, Dudley, I keep Yancy. Dudley was on before you. He's normally on Wednesdays. Yancy, when I think about what's going on in the college football playoffs, Texas A&M is going to host Miami. Miami's good. They're good. They're a good team. Oklahoma and Alabama, and then Georgia's waiting for the winner of Tulane, Ole Miss. And I hope I think Ole Miss is going to beat Tulane. I think it'll be a good game, but I think John Summerall is just what the Gators needed. And he's a truth broker, buddy. Does the dress make me look fat? He'll tell you. I want to ask you something about Charlie Weiss Jr. He's going to be there for the playoff game. How many coaches from the staff that went to LSU are going to be on the sidelines or in the press box Saturday when Ole Miss and Tulane kick off at Vaught Hemingway Stadium? And that's not Ernest Hemingway, is it? I know it's not.
Well, there's 3 coaches that have been at Ole Miss the last 3 or 4 years that will be at LSU after this playoffs are over. That's Charlie Rice, the offensive coordinator, George McDonald, the wide receiver coach, and Joe Cox, the tight end coach. Those 3 will be at LSU after the playoffs are over. Some people they're LSU coaches and stuff like that. They spent like 3 hours in Baton Rouge in their career at the press conference. It's not like these guys have been in Baton Rouge for the last few years and Lane shipping them over to Oxford to come coach the playoffs. They basically went to a press conference at LSU and then right back here at Oxford. And then it brings up the whole thing about poaching players and all that. And that's what the fans are concerned about. And look, and as I've said, there's no such thing as when a coach and several position coaches go to another school in the NIL portal era. So players are going to follow them. Yeah, it's just the way it is. It doesn't, there's no such thing. Have you ever heard of a coach leaving to another school, a successful one, not that's been fired, leaving to another school and bringing several assistants with them, and no players came with them? They're just, an extra week or 2 in Oxford is not going to make a difference if they're going to leave or not. They're either going to leave or they're not going to leave. That's just the way it is.
Let me say something. My good friend Dave Cody, longtime sports anchor, Channel 7 in Austin, Texas, one of the best ever, one of my mentors since 1983. Will Stein at Kentucky, introductory press conference, the new head coach at Kentucky after leaving Oregon as their offensive coordinator, thanked Hank Carter at Lake Travis. I remember Stein coached Hudson Card and wide receiver Garrett Wilson at Lake Travis in Austin. He was stadium announcer there 2013 through 2019. Longtime sports anchor out there. That's the way you do it. You don't forget the people that helped you along the way. And I tell you, speaking of Ole Miss coaches, one of my favorite, I love the dog, the man from Columbus, Mississippi, Billy Dog Brewer. That guy, did you know him?
Yeah,
I love that guy. Pat Dye used to talk about him, and he'd go, "Yes, old dog. I love dog." He's just,
his grandson was part of our box there last year. He's actually just got married. He's an agent / financial advisor, lives out in North Carolina, and his son
Gunner love it.
worked at Ole Miss, and he was at Marshall the last I heard last year. Not sure this season. A wide receiver coach, a great guy. Billy was a true character, an old Southern gentleman, old school Pat Dye like, Vince Dooley, the old school type coaches, and historian like you are, Rob. If you could have you would have sat down at the Beacon and had many conversations with Billy if he had lived here.
Well, it's like, you think about those old coaches, and Pat Dye Jr., I'm going to try to get him to come back up and hunt next month with us. But when his father, the last thing before he died, the last phone call he got was from Bo Jackson. They said, if you want to talk to him, you better talk quickly. And the last thing Bo said was, I love you, and a few other things. But, you don't forget those guys that are tough on you. You never forget them, whether it's a coach, a mentor in writing or in the media. And as Brenden says, there's two people in the world you never want to piss off: your caddy and your producer. And I'm going to add your coach. Don't ever do that. All right, Rodney. I feel like Richard Nixon when the men were walking on the moon in 1969. Well, hello, everyone. This is President Dick Nixon here. How are things on the moon? How's the cheese? Rodney, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? That's the question.
Yes, you sound great. He's back. Yancy.
Well, it's taken some work, but I figured out the way to go through my phone now. So,
all right, gotcha. Thank you. Well, look, we love having you on here. We want to get you and Yancy both. You're two good-looking TV guys. We got to get y'all both on video, if it's ever possible, when you're on the show, because it helps so much. But Rodney, Alabama and Oklahoma, we've talked about Ole Miss and Tulane. Let's get the Crimson Tide report from Tider Insider, folks. It's only $48 a year. Cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. Rodney, let her rip.
You want to talk about Alabama and Oklahoma? Well, I mean, I think obviously the key to Alabama's having some success against Oklahoma is going to come down to turnovers. I mean, I think that's what determined the last game. Alabama really pretty much controlled the game in a lot of ways. They just turned the ball over. I mean, you can't throw a pick six. You can't give them two possessions at your 30-yard line. I mean, that was the difference in the game. Plus, Alabama misses a chip shot field goal, and guess what? They lose by 2. So I think all of those things contributed to it. You know, with that said, has Alabama played great down the stretch? No, they have not. And I guess it's for a variety of reasons. I mean, think about this. If Alabama loses this game to Oklahoma, Alabama will have lost 3 of its last 4 SEC games.
Yeah. That's
and 3 times to Oklahoma in 13 months.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a big game for Kalen DeBoer.
All right. Roman Harper was on the show with us Friday. You know him from playing at Alabama, from Prattville. You like Alabama in a scoring if it gets like that, because Oklahoma's offense is pretty lame. It's all about John Mateer's hand. Their defense is really good. Now, they forced 3 turnovers in the 23-21 victory at Bryant-Denny. What do you think Alabama's going to try to do that they could not do the first time?
Well, first of all, like you said, they've got to protect the football. I mean, I think, you know, when you turn the ball over the way they did, like I said, the pick six, you had a turnover on special teams and Ryan Williams fumbles the ball. Ty Simpson gets sacked in the pocket. You know, he went 5 straight games fumbling the ball in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know, that he's protected it a little better the last couple of games, but I think that's really the key. So I think first and foremost, Alabama cannot beat themselves. You know, you mentioned the Oklahoma offense. It's not very good, but they have kind of shifted. I think they've taken some things off of Mateer. They haven't asked him to do everything. Just protect the football first and foremost. They've won games defensively. They won games on special teams. You know, and again, I think the challenge for Alabama is going into that environment in Norman and kind of managing it, handling it, which Alabama's done a really good job of going into, you know, opposing sites, and they're 4-0 in the SEC right now on the road. And that's not including the neutral site game in the SEC championship game. But so they've done a really good job of managing, you know, those difficult environments, and we'll see if they can this time. But Alabama's offense, guys, listen, it's struggled. Let's just be honest. It's really struggled. Ty Simpson has struggled. He's a little beat up. There's not been much of a run game at all at times, but I think Jam Miller will be back for this game, so that could help some. But Alabama's going to have to find a way to they can't be one-dimensional against a Brent Venables defense. They're going to have to find a way to have some success running the football.
You know,
it just makes a huge difference for your team when you can't run the football, right? I mean, you know, let's be honest. How far can any team go when they can't run the football?
Well, Yancy,
It's
go back and watch the Texas-Washington playoff game in 2023, and you'll see that it was an incredible performance by a quarterback, Michael Penix, in the face of a big rush against a stout defensive line, Bo Davis, nonetheless, was coaching that defensive line for Texas. But you go back and you look at that game, and this is what I'll say. I really think that, honestly, you look at that Washington team, they averaged 118 yards a game rushing that year. It's not a lot. Okay, so they asked their quarterbacks to make a lot of plays. They asked them to do things in the face of a rush, make those kind of throws. It's putting a lot on a quarterback. And I think, like you said, in the SEC, week in and week out, if you don't have a run game, it's going to make it really challenging.
Well,
yeah, I think in the Pac-10 back then, you could get away. It was such a finesse league and a passing league that you could get away with having the quarterback being the whole offense. But man, once you get to the SEC and now the way these teams are built, it's just tough when you can't run the football. I mean, I look at Ole Miss last year, and what was their weakness, right? It was running the football. And even though Dart ran the ball well, and they still averaged like 170 yards a game, 75 yards a game rushing the ball. But when you had to run the football, they couldn't run the football. And that's why they missed the playoffs, right? Even though they had the number one defense in the country and first round draft pick at quarterback, you got to be able to run the football, and it's put so much pressure on Ty. And as you were so well explaining, picks, he's had some fumbles, and every turnover is magnified, right? When you're in that situation and you have no balance on offense. And I think that's where Alabama is right now. If they just had any kind of rushing game, they would be a serious contender to win it all. But I just don't think they are without that running game.
Yeah. And like you said, Ty's been a little bit banged up. There's no doubt about that. And I do think the one thing that we talked about throughout the whole course of, the summer, back before the season, when we talked about Ty Simpson, he's got all the tools. And we saw them on display early this season through the midpoint of the season. He's got all the tools. The question was, again, how is Ty going to respond when things don't go well? And we understand that, there's a lot on him, but I think at the same time, Ty's been pretty hard on himself. I think he takes a bad play and he hangs on to it at times. We saw that in the Georgia game. You could tell he was frustrated probably with himself more than anything else. And I think it showed with some of the throws. He had some easy throws that he missed. He threw at the feet of receivers and so forth. But again, it's going to be interesting to see in this game. Like you said, I don't think Oklahoma has much offense. I think they're going to try to, keep it close to the vest. And, we'll see what happens. We'll see if Alabama's offense can produce enough points to get out of there with a win.
Yeah. Oklahoma is a big play team, right? I mean, they're going to get a 70, 75 yard completion or a run. They're not going to get 10 play 75-yard drives. They're going to get a 3-play 75-yard drive because they're not very good at continuing drives and getting first down after first down. They have a lot of trouble with consistency with their offense. They're also a big play defense. They like to force big plays like they did against Alabama. Get a pick six, get a couple fumbles. They're optimistic, opportunist defense as well. So that's what Alabama has to limit, the big plays. If they can keep the ball in front of them defensively, it's going to be really hard for Oklahoma to put up many points on offense. And if they can limit the turnovers on offense, it's going to be hard for Oklahoma to generate points off their defense. So that's what it really comes down to. If they can keep the ball in front of them and limit the turnovers, Alabama should win the ball game. But can they do that? We'll see.
Yeah. Rodney, Oklahoma has transformed themselves in year 2 into what an SEC team should look like, with a great defense, but their offense went the other way to an extreme. That's the tough part about it. Give me a prediction on the game score-wise.
You're not going to tell Gary Harris this, right?
Because no, I will not.
we're not supposed to release our picks until tonight.
I'm not going to put you on the spot.
But I'll tell you this. I could see this going either way. I think it's going to probably be a low-scoring game. That's just me. I think I could see a field goal to 6 points either way.
Okay.
And so I would probably lean Alabama a little bit here, but I could certainly see Oklahoma winning as well. I mean, seriously, I think it's going to be probably a close game that could go either way. And now look, if Alabama turns the ball over, if Ty gets picked a couple of times, they turn the ball over, then Oklahoma's going to win the game. Yeah. I'll just put it to you that way.
Only, Alabama will have a large contingent go on the road out there. There are Bama fans everywhere. Weather-wise, it's supposed to be cold in Norman. Hell, it's cold here. I mean, a duck hunting Sunday morning, I had ice all over me. It was so cold. But I do think Roman's right, and I agree with you. If Alabama's offense doesn't turn the ball over, and Yancy's same thing, then they win this game. But if they and Oklahoma will force you to turn it over.
That's right.
I mean, that's the thing. R. Mason Thomas. That it's not like you threw the ball at them and said, "Oh, we fumbled it." No, they're going to knock your head off.
They'll knock the ball off of you. I will say that too, Rob. They were more physical than Alabama in that game. Yeah. They knocked the ball off Alabama several times. I mean, that Alabama recovered the fumbles. They were fortunate enough, or they would have had more turnovers in the game. And let me just say this again, going back to what Yancy was saying. When you can't run the football, what's Alabama going to have to do to probably move the ball? They're going to have to do what they do best, or what they have been most successful doing. They're going to have to throw it. So you can expect pressure, and you can expect Venables to try to dial up some ways to turn the ball over, get the ball turned over. And if they do that, like I said, I don't see Alabama winning. But if Alabama can somehow play clean, that's the key.
Yeah, look, don't forget, like Kelly Leak says, Oklahoma has that hideout play, the lonesome end play, and I'm sure they're going to talk to the officials before the game. And Saturday night, the SEC office will issue an apology, but it won't matter. I mean, but anyway.
But special teams too now, I'm telling you, they have a great kicker. They have a great place kicker. Alabama's been inconsistent. Alabama's had a block punt in this last game against Georgia. I mean, there's been a lot of issues with this Alabama team now, I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, is Roll Tide Willie going to talk to the team? And have you met that guy? Is he real? Is he AI?
I haven't met him. I'm afraid that he is real, however.
No, he's real, and he was on, I think, Theo Vaughn's podcast.
Theo Vaughn had him on.
Do you think,
Rob, of course, that would be a great pair, him and Theo.
Rob wakes up in the morning now, and he calls me, Brenden, is for real or AI? I don't know. I'm not sure, but tell me if this is real.
Again, Rodney and I are old enough.
I don't know what's real.
Look, Brenden and Yancy are too young to remember this, but remember Rodney, the old commercial from Memorex? Is it live or is it Memorex?
Or is it Memorex? Yeah, I remember it well.
Ella Fitzgerald.
I remember the logo, and I remember the commercial for them.
Yeah, it was big. But look, we've run out of time. Rodney, look, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind. We've got Rodney Orr back. Look, Rodney, you and Yancy, I cannot tell you enough. We got to get y'all live on the video. It helps the algorithm and the Nielsen ratings and all those ratings, whatever they are. And I love seeing y'all because y'all are so good.
Yeah.
But
algorithms, Rob, and Nielsen ratings. Okay, there's a quiz.
Algorithm sounds like a new cereal. Can I have some algorithm with some wheat toast?
Give you algorithm soup later.
Hey, look, we're going to wrap it up right now, but Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, it's only $48 a year since 1996. Rodney, looking forward to celebrating 100 years eventually.
I just wanted to ask, I know, before you do a 9-minute commercial, can I ask Rodney for a second to get actual information? Hey, Rodney, what's going on? Look, what do you think about the new coach at Florida, right, with Summerall, and all this stuff with Lagway and these guys jumping in the portal? What's your take?
Well, I saw Lagway jumped in the portal, and it's probably best for him and probably best for Florida. I mean, I'm not – they'll find a quarterback. I think Summerall, what I know of him or what I've heard of him and all the things, it's really positive. And it sounds like he's making some good coaching moves that I've heard. Now, you could probably fill me in more on that. But some things that it just seems like he has an understanding of the program, what it takes to play in the SEC, even though he hasn't, obviously been a head coach in the SEC. But listen, I mean, everything I hear has been really positive about him.
With Kalen DeBoer and a sort of kind of a overlay there, as what to expect in a sense of, you're going to go through these guys and you're going to go get your own guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, again, I'm impressed with him. I think, you never know with a coach. And, look, I think Kalen DeBoer,
Yep.
like, for example, is a really good coach, but it goes back to fit. Sometimes it's the right fit, being at the right place, the right time, the right fit, and all of those things. And it just looks to me like Summerall's got a really good plan.
Yeah, organization. You're right. I mean that's the key.
What
All
about
right.
Yancy? I'm sorry, I was working, but what's your? We've gone a little overtime today. We never talked to you guys. What do you think about what's going on over there? I mean, you're living through it right now with all this Kiffin fallout, and do you think that he's got his fingers in some of this? Do you think we're going to see Lagway
Talk
over?
about Summerall.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm talking about
look,
Kiffin, Summerall, the entire coaching carousel.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've always been a big Summerall fan. I'm, time that it's been here at Ole Miss, we grew close during his days here in Oxford, and I've stayed close with Summerall since he left Oxford. So I'm a big fan of John. As far as Pete and he's putting together a great staff like John is down there. I think they're going to be similar coaches. But again, you don't know until you spot that ball, right? Until you play the games and you see how they react to circumstances, the decisions they make throughout a game. It's different. It's different. Summerall's a little bit different because he's been a head coach now at Tulane and at Troy, and he's got some experience where Pete does not. But I like the hire at Auburn. I really like that hire at Auburn as well. And so I like to hire at Kentucky. I think the obviously I think Lane is going to do big things at LSU. Look, don't confuse the narcissism and all that with Lane into thinking that he's not going to do well at LSU, because he is. He's going to do well wherever he goes. He's an unbelievable, brilliant mind. He's made for the transfer NIL era. That's elevated his ability as a coach up 2 or 3 notches.
Yeah.
So they're going to be competing for national championships year in and year out over there. I think the SEC got a lot stronger with all of these coaching moves. As far as DJ Lagway, he's not a John Summerall type quarterback. I'll put it that way. John Summerall is going to be old school. John Summerall's not going to be Spurrier or Lane Kiffin in there. I'm just going to let you know that. He's going to want to play physical. He's going to want to limit mistakes. It's going to be a different style than what maybe Florida fans are hoping for at the beginning, but they're going to like the end product when they're winning games.
Yeah, we were talking to Urban Meyer yesterday about it, and he says he runs a little spread. Buster, his new OC, likes to run the spread offense a little bit.
Yeah.
He does. But John, he doesn't want to make a lot of mistakes. He wants to let the other team out mistake you, and he wants to play more physical than you do. And he's would do great at a school like Alabama.
Yeah, you would.
And I think Florida fans love the Lane Kiffin style. I think that style is right up their alley because
it's
Spurrier like, right, and all that. But I think what Florida fans really want more than anything is to win football games, and they'll respect it, and they'll learn to love John Summerall.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think these 3 coaches, Will Stein at Kentucky, I like Silverfield at Arkansas, Golish at Auburn.
I do too. I like Silverfield at Arkansas. A great point on Arkansas. There's another coach. I think the SEC just got stronger, and it's going to be even harder, right? It's going to be a bear. It really is.
It is, and I think that you've got coaches that understand college football in today's world. They understand how to work the portal, high school, and they also know how to go raise money. They are salesmen. They are ready to roll. Hey, look, great stuff. Yancy Porter. Love you. Rebel Yell Hotline. Rodney Tighter Insider. Dudley Dawson Inside Arkansas. Jordan Davis Hill 247 Sports on the job.
Welcome back, Yancy. Oh,
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Rodney as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I said
Welcome back.
Yancy. No, it all happened at once. I'm looking at Yancy's name and Rodney disappears. I
know. And look, great stuff as always, Yancy. So much. I'm looking forward to coming to Oxford and seeing you soon. Go get it. Merry Christmas. We'll see you next Tuesday on the same time on the same channel. Great
Yancy
stuff.
Porter, I got a party with that guy.
Yeah. He is a wild man at the Tallahatchie Grill. Okay. Lee Harvey, you were a wild man. And Stripes. Okay.
I've been known to like have a good time with you.
And you walk everywhere. He walks everywhere. No driving.
We're gonna have a big retreat. I think we're gonna head to Destin.
We're gonna have a symposium in the woods at Sardis Lake in the winter. Walden's
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We're not quite outdoors.
That scares me.
It's too cold. All right, Yancy, thank you more than you know.
I'll be at the bar.
Yeah, we'll be at the bar in Vegas at a pool party.
Yeah,
that's
pool party.
probably more I thought.
We'll do it. Good luck Saturday.
God bless. Y'all
God
take
bless
care.
You as well. Hey, man, Landers Ford is open every day of the week except Sundays. Do yourself a favor, man. Just call and ask. Say, can I speak to Brad Bellamy? Brad Bellamy's the general manager. His great-grandfather wrote the Pledge of Allegiance, I might add. Service department open every day of the week as well, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., except Sundays. And they got all the Ford vehicles, Broncos, F-250s, F-150s, the King Ranch, the Ford Escape, the Expeditions. Man, these Broncos, they're so good looking. You got to love them. Right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville. HewlettandDunn.com. Open every day of the week now, including Sundays through Christmas. Get out there and Rumble Boxing Gym, Midtown Memphis. How you fight is how you live. And HempForPros.com. Remember, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're all blessed. Go bless others. For executive producer Brenden Martin, Rob Browne saying, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.